Good afternoon, everybody. Wherever in the world you are, we hope that you are keeping safe. Welcome to another episode of Illustrated Talks. And today we have a very important issue to discuss. It's the very controversial Philhealth 3%. Is it mandatory? Is it voluntary? Or is it voluntary for now contributions that will be affecting overseas Filipinos across the world? Stick around with us because we're going to give you a lot of information so that you understand the law better and you can participate actively and get your voice heard in case you think that this law needs to be amended. So stick around with us here at Illustrated Talks. Thank you for joining us, guys. I'm Lalaine Benitez, editor-in-chief here at Ilustrado Magazine. And with me is Alwi Villarosa, our features editor. Alwi, hi, how are you doing? Alwi, you're on mute at the moment. I think, can you adjust that? Just unmute so you can say hi.
Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Super. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Just thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for another meaningful discussion. Of course, we have our experts and guests joining us to tackle this new law that's been released a few days ago, but the 3% from Philhealth. So yeah.
Yeah, we have our very special guest this afternoon to throw some light into the issue, and of course we're very fortunate to have with us today Atty Barney Almazar, who's a friend here at Ilustrado. Atty Barney Almazar is, as you know, a 10 Outstanding Young Men awardee from the Philippines. He's also an awardee for the Asian Legal Business Young Lawyer Award in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia. And his book, The Essential OFW Guide to the UAE, has become an important resource for a lot of Filipinos, here in the Gulf in recent years. Atty Barney, thank you for joining us all the way from Manila.
Hi, Lalaine. Thank you for inviting me again.
And yeah, it's going to be a very meaty discussion. We are also very fortunate today to have with us Froilan Malit Jr., who's a Gulf migration specialist. He is the managing director of Rights Corridor, which is a regional news platform focused on migration and rights issues. He's also the regional and a part of the regional and international organizations, including Abu Dhabi Dialogue, the ILO, and IOM. And he is part of the advisory committee for the ILO Regional Office for the Arab States. Froilan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I think it's going to be a very hopefully an eye-opening discussion for everybody who's with us today. Whoever is watching this right now, guys, we encourage you to please do ask questions. This is your chance so that you get a better understanding of the law. But before we unpack this issue and really look into the details.
I also want to take this chance to actually say hi to people who joined us in this.
All right.
Saying hi to Keith Walter, Agnes Aquino Briggs watching, Gerald Grosin, Florian Grosin is also watching, Puring Espejo, Rian Miranda, Madam Yasmin Balakadia, Josie Delphine is also watching, Doc Jello is watching, and of course Chris Daimon is also joining us this afternoon in this discussion.
Yes, please, guys, let me just reiterate that do ask questions if you're watching right now, and do share this live stream so that your other friends can also, get the information that we're trying to disseminate today. Before we get into the discussion, we would like to share with you some words from Filipinos within the community on what they feel and they think about this whole Philhealth issue. Let's roll that video.
Magandang buhay everyone, my name is Josie, and my take on this Philhealth issue, first and foremost, timing was very, very bad. Philippine government, seriously, at this very challenging time, naisip nyo to? Wow! Secondly, 3% is just too much. Masyado pong malaki yun. You are calling us bagong bayani, and yet you are not making us feel that you truly care. We have what we call as a prudent approach, but this came like a bomb to all overseas Filipino workers all over the world. So for me, this PhilHealth needs to be revisited. At least take a look at it again. And for now, this is a no-no. This is very bad for us. Okay? Maraming masyadong issues that we need to tackle, that we need to overcome here abroad. So please, don't give us another one na sasakit ang puso at sasakit ang utak namin.
Of course, now the narrative has changed. Currently, it is not anymore mandatory, but voluntary. But you see, taken by itself, the 3% increase is really burdensome. It is a burden to Filipino people, well, specifically to the overseas Filipinos. And with this pandemic happening all around us, with all the job losses, with the forced leaves, with salary cuts, it lacks a certain character. It lacks an empathetic character. It caught many Filipinos, overseas Filipinos, by surprise. And, don't get me wrong. By itself, objectively, the Universal Healthcare Act is actually good. It is good for the public. It is good for the general public. But the thing is, why single out the OFs? Why single out the overseas Filipinos? There are certain statements there that need to be modified, and I think it lacks consultation, and it lacks proper dissemination of information.
3% po is not acceptable. We are already overburdened by loss of income, loss of job, and we don't have any way to add that to our troubled finances. And it's good, really it's good for people who are looking for this kind of health benefits, but not for OFW because we are not using that PhilHealth here in abroad.
I admit I was really triggered emotionally when I first saw that viral post about the increase in the premium for PhilHealth, because why not? We are not using it right now and we have a really good coverage, including our dependents here in Dubai, diba? But after some time, I thought maybe I reacted prematurely, that I failed to look at the bigger picture of it. After all, after more research and seeking the advice and counsel of other experts in the economic and financial area, I realized that this whole national health care program is really good for the entire nation, and that we really just have to start somewhere. But I think the 3% is still high for many of us, considering that our counterpart in the Philippines are only paying 1.5 because the other 1.5 are being shouldered by their employees. So if we can have a dialogue between us or a representative of the overseas Filipinos and the Congress or the Senate or the PhilHealth themselves, it would be good to look and revisit other these points in this in the implementation of this program, particularly the mandatory policy that is being implied in this program, and also the fact that they have to check if we have fulfilled our obligation before allowing us to travel in or out of the country. If those things will be revisited, I think we really have a good program in place, and we will be very much willing to cooperate.
Well, I am personally glad that the government had immediately responded to the grievances of its people. However, I feel like this is only temporary, though at the moment it can be voluntary. I feel like the overseas Filipino will still have to pay 3% of its salary in order, or even more in the coming years, in order to cover dependents back in the Philippines. Having said that, I do believe also that the Universal Healthcare Act in its form has its good intentions to provide equitable healthcare services for all the Filipinos. Well, if this act will be reopened or amended, they should consider the consultations with the overseas Filipinos or any of its representative, and before its final ratification, to ensure that all the issues are properly addressed, and making sure as well that any appeals will reach our government.
Hello everyone, this is Rose, an OFW here in China. This is regarding about the 3% mandatory law na babayaran ng mga OFW sa PhilHealth. Hopefully that our government can take consideration about it na sana makapagbigay sila ng reasonable rate na para naman hindi mahirapan at mabigatan ang lahat ng ating mga kababayan na mga OFW. Layunin nating tumulong sa bawat isa. Salamat po.
There right now, in order for us to understand this, it's good to go back and really take a look at the origins of this entire issue. So I would like to ask Attorney Barney by starting to explain to us what is the basis and give us the basics on this universal healthcare law that affects everybody.
Maybe we start first with what type of legislation is the universal healthcare law. This is a social justice legislation. This is to ensure that everybody, even if you are rich, even if you are poor, you are given access to healthcare services. So, by the very nature of the law, we cannot expect that we will be getting exactly what we paid for. Okay, so we cannot really argue that I am being shortchanged because the contributions that you are giving will probably be used by someone who cannot afford healthcare services. So that's the intent of the law. I do not have any issues with that. In fact, a lot of Filipinos, they would really want to go to become citizens of another country just because of the healthcare services from those countries. And why should the Philippines not have that? Of course, we want that. Now, I think that the issue where, at least for myself and some of the people that I know, is the implementation. How is it going to be implemented? That's where we are having some issues right now.
Attorney Barney, yeah.
Sorry, just a question also. Because a lot of we've heard a lot of opinions from other overseas Filipinos also, saying that it is mandatory. It will be mandatory. For now, it's not. But like, do Filipinos living in the Philippines, like, do they need to do the same thing, or like, are they obliged to like?
Yeah, I think Attorney Barney, before you answer that, maybe you can just take us through the details that affects everybody. The baseline. How are we affected by this? What is expected from everybody under this law?
Okay. Under the law, every Filipino citizen is automatically a member. So prior to the implementation of the law, there are those who are already Philhealth members. But now, when the law was became into take effect, every Filipino, whether you are contributing or not, you are automatically a member of Philhealth. That's why the law is good, because a Filipino will no longer be having this problem of, what if I get sick? I cannot go to a hospital. So again, everyone will be benefited. But who will fund this healthcare services? So it will come from the contributors. Now, majority are, of course, are residents of the Philippines. If you have worked in the Philippines, your employer will automatically deduct from your salary the premium, your premium contribution. In the Philippines, 50% of the premium is shouldered by the employee and 50% is shouldered by the employer. So hati sila. And the employer has the duty to remit payment to Philhealth. Now, those who are residents of the Philippines who are self-employed, then they also pay for their contributions. Like for example, professionals like doctors, lawyers, they have to pay their own premium. They have to pay their individual premium contributions. Now, when it comes to the overseas Filipinos, let's clarify the term overseas Filipinos. Overseas Filipinos is not limited to overseas Filipino workers. We are just one of the components of overseas Filipinos. And overseas Filipinos, including OFWs, are required to contribute. Now, the percentage is 3% of your basic income. Now, because the Philippine government, Philhealth, has no control on our employers. Being OFWs, our employers are not registered in the Philippines. They cannot compel them to shoulder 50% of our premium. So what will happen is we are required to pay the entire 3%. Unlike in the Philippines, it's shouldered half by the employer, half by the employee. For the OFWs, it will be the full 3%. So that's one of the main distinction. But at the end of the day, everyone who is capable, everyone who earns income, well, of course, at least the basic, as per the requirement of the law, will have to contribute. So that's how the system works. It's the same thing as it's similar to a tax system wherein we contribute taxes and these taxes are used to build roads. But for this particular contribution, it is earmarked for healthcare services.
Okay, I think we might have a disruption in a while. So whoever's viewing right now, guys, please just stick around with us, and we will get back to you. Don't change the page. It's going to be okay. Just in case we have a disruption. Alvi, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to follow up on that 3% because as correct me if I'm wrong, Atty Barney, this 3% is expected to go up to 5% by 2025, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's there's a gradual increase. It's not only the percentage, but it's also the ceiling, the salary ceiling, because right now it's about 60,000. The maximum ceiling after 2 years will be 100,000, if I'm not mistaken. But it is increasing, yes.
Mm.
What happens when you are, for example, in the situation right now where OFWs are not getting paid their salaries because of the crisis? Or what happens when they lose jobs, or if they are freelance workers, for example? Yeah. Froilan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think let's contextualize the law a little bit more. So the tenet of the law looks at, a healthy society is a productive one, right? And it's very essential, especially for a well-functioning developing country like the Philippines. Now, if you look at the degree of inequality in our country, the poor.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, we are having a disruption. So Froilan, let me just ask you to pause for a while. We're just going to, we're just going to do some adjustments here on the tech side. So just stand by, guys. Okay, sorry guys for the disruption, but we'll pick up on the discussion once again. Froilan, can you tell us about those issues that you started earlier?
I think we need to set the context a little bit more deeper. What you see at the moment is the degree of discontent and furious of a lot of Filipino workers. They work so hard, they migrated, and then all of a sudden they're being penalized because you can't collect when you cannot protect. And a lot of Filipinos use this as a mechanism to actually challenge the state. But this effect that you see at the moment, this global discontent that you see, you have to look at the domestic politics, right? The degree of fiscal policy decision-making that, Duterte actually and his administration created. I know on a personal level that Duterte wouldn't actually want this kind of policy, but you have to understand, why he did the way he did these things. What were the trade-offs that he actually faced? What were his constraints? And what were the alternatives, right, that he had to deal with in order to make such decisions? Because you can't bite the hand that feeds you, right? You can't. I mean, if you think about it, right, Filipinos put him into power. They helped him a lot. They contributed $35 billion. But the problem is that why is it that he would knowingly pass the legislation that could, to an extent, harm them? So let me give you a little bit of context about this law. I think, first of all, we need to realize that it took 5 decades to even have a universal, law for healthcare workers. And this was passed at a time of economic prosperity. We didn't have, right, in COVID-19. And there was a set budget for, this healthcare law, for the Philhealth. It was actually $260 million. Now,
Froilan, let me just interrupt you there. We are being requested if we can speak more in the vernacular so that we have more people listening in and they can understand what we're talking about. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Siguro, we need to recognize yung 5 decades of policy making, right? But a lot of our legislators and a lot of administrations have tried to do this. So now we are at a point where we have a legislation, right? And it was passed at a time na walang COVID, right? There's a set budget. Yung budget, it came from charitable organizations, mga PCSO, and it also came from sin taxes. Yun yung initial strategy ng government natin. And remember, yung universal healthcare, it's a form of social protection. It's a human right. And our government, our president, laid this out as part of his political platform. So he's trying to actually uphold it. But now you're in this exceptional moment in history, right, where you're actually bounded by all these difficult responsibilities, both domestically and abroad, because you have to deal with 100 million Filipinos and 10 plus million, including dual citizens outside. So if you look at it, there was a budget, right? But then if you look at yung COVID cases, they ran up so fast. Philhealth and the administration, they weren't able to actually deal, with this problem. So what did they do? They had to think of, fiscal budget policy. Like where do you actually finance it? So the administration had 2 options. So yung unang option nila is you either use foreign aid, you either use loans, bilateral or multilateral. You potentially could take from your sovereign wealth fund, or you increase your taxes sa mga oligarchs, or you increase your taxes sa mga private sector. Now, Duterte actually, he's in this balancing act here. For example, if you impose a lot of taxes to private sector, it would create unemployment. A lot of these companies would go out, therefore low revenue. And at this point in time, walang revenue na nangyari sa Pilipinas, meaning low collection taxes. And you also cannot borrow a lot of money from these international organizations, partly because they're also impacted. Europe, UK, US, you name it, right? So there are real constraints. And at the same time, if you increase your taxes among oligarchs in the Philippines, that could create also political implications for him because these are his constituents, right? So in a way, Duterte prioritized him in a different degree, right? So aning next auction nga, yung OFWs. So they have 35 billion. Imagine mo yon, you have 3% every month ng 35 billion na yon. So that would be sufficient to close yung fiscal challenges that they're dealing with for Philhealth. And at the same time, low threat yung mga OFWs, right? So only 30% of them vote, yung mga overseas voters. So meaning there's low political participation in the process. And more importantly, very, very strong yung public support ng mga OFWs sa atin, right? So anong nangyari? Well, Duterte overestimated yung support ng mga OFW, thinking that they would actually bite, this particular program. And I'm sure yung mga administrative officer officials niya, they also assumed that they could use that public power, right, to institute yung policy na to. And at the same time, he underestimated yung severity ng COVID-19, right? He didn't know na yung mga tao walang makain, no work, no pay, deductions, salary, etc., etc. So, ending, na-checkmate si Duterte, right? Now, where do you go? Where do you get your funds, right? Yan ang tanong. Now, he tried to raise yung taxes, but you cannot. So, yung nangyari sa kanya, he had to make tough choices. So, he blindly, actually, pinasa yung circular note, at nakikita niyo yan. So, I think we need to look at yung constraints. But ano bang iniisip ng ating presidente?
Yeah.
So, in order to criticize the president, you have to go mata sa mata, right? You have to look at what were his constraints, right? What were his alternatives? I think if you look at 3%, that's basically part of the story, right? And it's a very important one. I'm not discounting that. And I'm for Filipinos. I think it's a bullshit, right? 3% na yun. We should amend it. But I also think that in order to effectively channel yung mga criticisms natin sa government, we need to look at the inside the state, inside the apparatus, right? Why is he shifting yung cost na yun sa OFWs, right? And who are you protecting, right? When you shift, right, this particular focus. So you need to look at yung balancing act niya. Hindi lang yung, one angle looking at sa OFW. No, this is a global issue. Look at it. Kasi nga, to understand yung implication niya, go inside the domestic politics, fiscal policy making. You should start with that. Kasi even within the government, it's an issue of priority, right? There are funds even within the government that could be used to rechannel para sa fund na yun, or you increase yung taxation where you don't need to actually use the mga OFW. So I think itong context na to, we need to look at it a little bit more carefully. And we need to recognize that we are at this exceptional moment in history. This thing was never happened. So yung constraints na to, I don't think we should underestimate them. And I think yung presidente natin on a personal level, alam mo yun, hindi niya gugustuhin na magaganitong policy. It just happens na his constraints. He's bounded by it. So the question now sa mga tao is, nasan yung priority, right? Why are you prioritizing these actors, private sector oligarchs, etc., over OFWs? Yun ang itanong natin.
Okay. Yes, Alwi.
Just to ask you, is it safe to assume that this policy has been made just recently?
This is an old rule, I understand, right? Barney, you want to comment on that?
This is the creation of the previous premium that OFWs pay to Philhealth. But because of the social-political and economic implications that you were talking about, is it safe for us to assume that this policy has just been made?
Remember yung budget ng Philhealth. I mean, they face a lot of struggle kasi nga, if you think about yung initial payment sa COVID, right? So they said no cap, right? Libre, right? But then cases went up, right? So they went up, and then Philhealth realized now, oh my God, we cannot handle all these cases, and they're very expensive kasi may mga tao na may bills na 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, right? So what did they do? They actually capped it to 700,000, right? So ano yung naging effect nila? Well, the forcing government to think, right? And even pass draconian policies. Kaya makikita mo yung circular note, right? It was so offensive, yung circular note na yon, even yung migrants in distress, that it's not okay for all of us.
Okay.
So these constraints actually led, right? The government timeline matters. You have to look at your timeline because it tells you yung politics, yung priorities, and yung options. Why the government did what they did. And
Froilan, let me get back to you when we talk about solutions later on, because I know that there is a bigger picture to this. This is not just an issue about OFWs. Definitely, malaki pa tong issue na to. Maraming kadugtong sa issue na to. But let me just direct this question to Barney. Barney, you've worked with so many OFWs, in recent years. Alam na, we already have an opinion about this law. Can you tell us further what makes the implementation of this law really unfair or unrealistic with OFWs?
Okay, sige. Ganito Lalaine, itong batas na ito, it took effect nung first quarter ng 2019. Okay? So, nung binabalangkas ang batas, nung pinag-uusapan pa ito sa Kongreso, walang COVID, no? Actually, COVID is wala siyang naging epekto doon sa paggawa ng batas, no? Kasi matagal nang tapos ang batas bago pa mag-COVID, no? So nung natapos ang batas nung first quarter ng 2019, inatasan na, no, na ang mga agencies na magpapatupad nito, tulad of course number 1 ang Philhealth, no? So Philhealth has to do the implementing rules and regulations, no? So the implementing rules and regulations, ito yung mga susundin na patakaran para maisakatupad yung Universal Healthcare Law. Now, they were able to do the implementing rules and regulations. Doon sa kanilang implementing rules and regulations, nandiyan yan, makikita mo na magtataas tayo ng premium, no? From this amount to this amount, every year ito, ganito ang magiging polisiya natin. Now, yung tanong na bakit 3%? Bakit magiging 5%? Bakit ang cap 100,000? Bakit maliit ba to? Malaki ba to? To be very frank, I am not in a position to say na mataas yan, maliit yan. Bakit 2.5? Bakit hindi 2.31? Bakit hindi 5.2? No? Ang nakikita natin dyan is ano ba ang need natin? So, kung ang kailangang mag-compute, sabi nila, kung halimbawa sa isang taon dapat meron tayong, for example, 20 billion. O ilan ba ang magko-contribute? Ano ang projected? Ito dapat. Siguro, maganda na nalaman natin, kasi last year pa ito at alam nilang mag-i-increase. Maganda siguro na naabisuhan na kaya tayo magtataas dahil magpapagawa tayo ng mga ospital. Kaya tayo magtataas kasi yung mga dating serbisyo na dapat yung bayaran, ngayon hindi na yan babayaran. So, yung paniningil, I don't think may issue doon. Talagang kailangan nating magbayad kung tayo ay may capacity na magbayad. Whether 3% is correct, 5% is correct, tignan natin ano ba yung ginawang report. Meron naman yung basihan, meron naman silang mga actuarians na nag-compute. Then let's validate ito ba tama, etc. So that's for one. I don't think na dapat magkaroon ng issue doon. Kasi kung talagang ang dapat bayaran ay 3% at hindi naman ito in-overcharge, no? I mean, this is a fair price. We really have to do that. Kung kinakailangan magtipid tayo para mabayaran natin ang contribution, dapat nating gawin because yun ang katungkulan ng isang mamamayan. Now, lahat tayo ay magbabayad, yung mga may trabaho. Ang susunod dyan, kung lahat tayo ay nagko-contribute, dapat ang paniningil sa atin o ang pag-i-enforce ng batas ay pare-pareho. Walang may pinapaboran. Ano ang mangyayari dun sa mga Pilipino na nasa Pilipinas na hindi nagbayad? Di ba? May penalties, may surcharge. Okay, kung yan ang patakaran, magbayad. Now, ano ang mangyayari sa mga OFW na hindi nakapagbayad? Same. May penalties, may surcharge, may compound interest pa nga daw. That is applicable to everyone. Pero, nakalagay dun sa kanilang implementing rules, yung 10.2C, section na 10.2C, pag ang isang OFW ay hindi nakapagbayad. Kasi ang sabi doon, the POEA should ensure na yung mga OFW na aalis, bago umalis, magbayad ng PhilHealth. At huwag mag-issue ng OEC, yung exit pass, which again is a separate issue but which I really do not believe in, hindi ka mag-i-issuean ng OEC. So pag hindi ka na-issuean ng OEC, what will happen? Hindi ka makakalabas. So hindi ka
di ba ito na yung proseso before kung ng mga OFW na umuwi sa Pilipinas. If we're looking at 2014, 2015, there's been 1.7 and 1.2 billion collection na nakukuha dahil nga dumadaan sa POEA kapag umuwi and bumabalik in the country that they were based at.
Yes.
And then in 2016, there was a 490 million drop in terms of collections because hindi na dumaan sa POEA yung collections ng PhilHealth and Pag-ibig.
Okay. Tama, no? Hindi lang naman PhilHealth ang kailangan mong bayaran bago ka makalabas, no? Nakabundle yan. Sa OEC, may mga kailangan ka pang gawin. May mga other prerequisites for you to get the OEC. So, ang sinasabi natin, nakalagay doon na i-ensure nga na bayad muna ang PhilHealth bago makakuha ng OEC. But before pa kumukuha na talaga ng OEC. No? So, lumalabas ang isang OFW, pag hindi siya nakapagbayad, hindi siya makakalabas ng bansa. Hindi siya makakapagtrabaho. Ngayon, yung mga Filipinos na residente ng Pilipinas, halimbawa, doktor, no? O halimbawa, isang abogado, no? Kailangan nilang magbayad ng kanilang PhilHealth contribution. Kung hindi sila magbayad, pwede silang umalis ng bansa. Hindi naman sila haharangin sa airport. Nasaan ang PhilHealth resibo mo? Wala. Diba? So, bakit sila pwedeng mag-travel? Yung mga employers na hindi ibinayad yung kontribusyon ng kanilang empleyado, pwede ring mag-travel. And they can continue to work. You know? Yung abogado o yung doktor na hindi nagbabayad ng PhilHealth, kung hindi naman siya aalis ng bansa, di makakapagtrabaho pa rin siya. Pero yung OFW na hindi nakapagbayad ng PhilHealth, hindi makakaalis ng bansa, hindi makakapagtrabaho. Yun lang ang kanyang source of livelihood. So, bakit ganoon? Kasi sinasabi nila, kasi talaga namang ang mga OFW umaalis yan. So, yun lang yung way para hold natin sila, para maipit natin sila. Kung titignan nyo, ang right to travel, no, under the Constitution, is protected. Kaya nga sabi ko, kahit yung OEC, labag sa Constitution yan. But let's step it aside muna ngayon. Yung pangungulekta ng taxes, no? Pag ikaw, hindi ka nagbayad ng tax at ikaw ay na-audit, hindi automatic, hindi ka makakalabas ng bansa. Tax is the lifeblood of the nation. No? Bago pa yung PhilHealth, may tax tayo. No? Ang tax nga, may mga enforcers yan para makapangulek tax. Pag hindi ka nakapagbayad ng tax, maaari kang kasuhan. No? Kakasuhan ka, maghihiring, pwede ka pa rin lumabas ng bansa. Unless mag-order na ang korte na dahil hindi ka nagbayad, baka dapat kang ikulong, hindi ka makakalabas ng bansa. May proseso. Ngayon, ang hindi makapagpakita ng payment receipt ng PhilHealth, no? Pag wala kang proof na nagbayad ka ng PhilHealth, hindi ka makakalabas. Yun lang ang aking nakita, no? So talaga nung nakita ko ito, parang hostage ang mga OFW. Kung gusto mong lumabas, magbayad ka. Kung di ka magpabayad, edi dyan ka na lang sa Pilipinas, huwag ka na bumalik sa iyong employer. So, ang nakita ko doon, parang bakit naman napakahigpit sa OFW at samantalang sa iba ay hindi naghigpit. Ngayon may nagsasabi, kayo namang mga OFW, tax exempt kayo Hindi kayo nagbabayad ng inyong taxes sa mga income ninyo. Well, there is a law giving us that privilege. No? At bakit kami binigyan ng batas ng ganung pribileyo? Baka siguro dahil nagko-contribute kami ng mga dolyares sa Pilipinas at in recognition of our sacrifices. But again, kung gusto nyo maging fair, ipapalitan nyo rin ng batas na tanggalin ang tax benefit ng OFW. But it will not erase the fact na single out ang OFW na tayo lang ang makalabas.
Especially at some point, we were in the top 3 GDP contributor for the Philippines.
If I may, guys, I know that I'm supposed to be moderating this, but this feels so personal because we know what our kababayans are going through. No? Para tayong naka-shotgun, hindi ka makalabas. In fact, marami na ngang ayaw umuwi dahil sa mga inconveniences at yung mga ganitong klaseng patakaran sa atin, parang pahirap ng pahirap para sa mga kababayan natin.
Lalaine, I have a quick question lang, no? Kasi I'm not a lawyer, so I just want to get some clarification here. So I read some advisory notes. I think Barney has also seen that, and a lot of OFWs. Siguro yung question ko kay Barney is where exactly sa legal provision na you can't travel sa implementing guidelines, a circular note, and yung sulok. Could you tell us specifically where para at least maklaro din sa akin? I'm not a lawyer. I just want to make sure na yung direct and unintended consequences niya are actually being highlighted. Kasi the way I'm reading in law, yung 10.2c, it says, the Philippine or POEA shall ensure that land-based overseas Filipino workers, whether new hires or returning, pay their PhilHealth premiums prior to issuance of the OEC. Diba? So, no payment, no OEC, right? But here it doesn't say yung right to travel, like whether you'll be banned. At saka, yung guidelines were not published yet. So I wonder, what would you say sa POEA that attempts to is currently formulating this? Kasi, just to clarify bago pa kasi ngayon, hindi pa naka-in place yan, right? It's not in place, right? And yung intent ng government to do this, it's there. But implementation hindi pa naka-link yung system ng POEA, right, sa PhilHealth. Now, in order for this to actually move forward, yung POEA Board of Governing Director, they actually have to, consult with the different stakeholders, mga CSOs, NGOs, and they have to sit, with PhilHealth to come up with yung guidelines and protocols and how to do this, no? So I think, I'm curious kay Atty Barney, I mean, it appears to me na ito yung mga analysis mo, the forthcoming analysis mo about the law, but I just want to clarify, nasaan exactly yung provision na yun that blocks you? I know that it has the unintended effect to block you, but I'm trying to see yung direct para at least maklarify din sa akin.
Okay, no? So pag tinignan natin yung nakalagay dito, no, 10.2c, overseas Filipinos workers, ano? Mm-hmm. If you have the entire copy, it's on page 15 on the very top, no? Mm-hmm. Nakalagay, the premium contribution shall be salary-based as prescribed by this act and shall require submission of acceptable proof of actual income. Non-submission of acceptable proof of actual income shall result in the charging of the rate based on the income ceiling. Ito na yung ating provision na hinahanap. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, no, yung POEA, shall ensure that based overseas Filipino workers, whether new hires or returning, balik manggagawa, pay their PhilHealth premiums prior to issuance of overseas employment certificate. Specific guidelines shall be issued by the POEA and PhilHealth. So, maliwanag, bago ka makakuha ng OEC, kailangan bayad ang iyong PhilHealth. Kung wala kang OEC, makakalabas ka ba? Hindi. So, therefore, your right to travel has been restricted by this requirement to pay first the PhilHealth na hindi nire-require sa ibang mga Pilipino na gustong lumabas ng bansa na bayad muna ang iyong PhilHealth. So what you're saying is sabi. But Froilan, importante yung naiano mo, no, yung iyong naipunto na naglabas naman ang POEA. Teka lang, wala namang kaming resolution pa na nilalabas na pinagbabawalan na ang mga Pilipino makalabas nang hindi bayad ang hindi bayad ang PhilHealth, 'di ba? Nag-issue sila niyan kahapon, I think. So sa akin naman, oo nga, wala pa kayong nailalabas na resolution. Pero very clear sa implementing rules. Inutusan ang POEA. POEA ensure na hindi sila mai-issuehan ng OEC hanggat hindi sila bayad. So merong utos. Ang POEA ngayon, kailangan nang sundin yung utos. Ang tanong, nasunod na ba nila? Hindi pa. Kasi gumagawa pa lang sila ng resolusyon. Hindi naman sinabi ng POEA na hindi namin yan susundin dahil unfair yan. Hindi. Susundin nila. Nilang nagagawa pa.
If I may, let me add another element dito sa punto na to, no? So yeah, in-announce yan ng OWA na hindi pa nakalink ito, pero merong rule that which means it will eventually happen. Nag-issue din ng directive si Presidente Duterte na magiging voluntary na lang ito, ano? But nag-issue din ang Philhealth na sabi nila they cannot change the law at magbibigay lang sila ng flexible payment terms. So ano ba talaga ang mangyayari? Does this mean na for now, suspended ito? Anong mangyayari dito? Pero may batas, right? So this means that it will be implemented anyhow, right? It will come into effect.
Lalaine, kasi ang batas, yan ay galing sa Kongreso. And then, ang Kongreso, tagagawa yan ng batas, ang Pangulo, ang executive, siya ang head ng executive department. Ang implementasyon, ang pagpapatupad ng batas ay nakasalalay sa kanila, sa under yan ng Office of the President. So, marami naman tayong batas actually, na valid pero hindi naman pinapatupad. So, meron tayong valid na batas, meaning still being under the statutes, pero hindi pinapatupad. So, maaaring kung ang tingin ng presidente hindi yata dapat na ito talaga gawin, i-voluntaryo na lang ito, then pagpunta mo sa airport, hindi niya uutusan ng immigration na enforce the law at huwag mong paalisin ang hindi bayad sa Philhealth. But that is kung yun ang kanyang pananaw ngayon. Ngayon, kung gusto natin na masigurado na this will not happen, halimbawa, mapalitan ng Pangulo, di baka iba na ang rule, Kung after ng election iba na ang nakaupo, or for us to say with certainty na hindi ito mapapatupad, kinakailangan amyendahan ng batas. So sino ang magpapalit ng batas? Ang magpapalit ng batas ay ang Kongreso, or kung ang Korte Suprema, ang ating judiciary ay i-declare na may mga provisions, hindi naman kailangang i-declare ang buong batas i-abolish, They can the Supreme Court can declare na certain provisions lamang ang unconstitutional at yung mga provisions lamang na yon ang hindi ipapatupad.
Lalaine, I just want to add kay Atty Barney, so there are different categories of Filipino workers, diba? So I just want to note kay Atty Barney na OFWs who are returning to their employers, they don't need OEC, right? I just wanted to clarify yung administrative rule. That's actually a policy ngayon. So you exempted, right? So they don't need John. They may exemption sila. So kasi I read yung note mo and it says it's a very strong position that you took, yung Filipinos being hostage. So I just want to make sure na there are those certain categories that fall outside yung policy na yon, they can still go out even without paying, right? Yung Philhealth. So meron din ganon. I just wanted to add yun kay Atty Barney. Yeah.
So parang lumalabas dun sa issue ng ating POEA, na wala pa silang resolution na pinapasa, na hindi pa nakalink. So lumalabas na hindi pa tayo tatamaan ng batas, makakalabas pa rin tayo basta kukuha ka ng OEC, hindi ka hihingan ng Philhealth. So parang yun ang lumalabas na sitwasyon ngayon, na makakalabas ka kahit hindi ka bayad sa Philhealth. Na maaaring hindi napigilan kung hindi tayo siguro nag-express ng ating pagkadismaya dito sa batas.
We will talk about the amendment, or the possibility of having this law amended later on. I think we will be having another disruption, guys. I'm really so sorry about this. I think our connection has problems. So we will pause for a few minutes. Please don't go. It will be the same setup. We're just going to be gone for a few minutes and we will come back right away. Okay, going back to where we left off. So Attorney Barney, hanggang kailan? Hanggang kailan tong suspension na to o tong voluntary status na ito? Do we know?
Well, we don't know. I mean, wala namang time frame na sinabi na suspended lamang dahil during COVID, ano? But sa nakikita ko, parang ang lumalabas, no? I may be wrong, no? Pero parang ang lumalabas dahil nga sa nasa ganito tayong sitwasyon, meron tayong pandemic, wag na munang i-enforce yan strictly, no? Parang kung kaya mo magbayad ka. Kung hindi mo kaya magbayad, huwag ka na muna magbayad. Hindi pa talaga maliwanag as of now, no? Kaya nga ang alam lang natin is walang i-hold sa airport dahil hindi bayad ang PhilHealth.
Anybody wants to add to that? Yeah, before
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, sorry, I just have a question for both Attorney Barney and also Froilan. Because we have close to 500,000 signatures online. There's been a signature campaign online. A lot of overseas Filipinos are frustrated about this new law. Do you think that it is redundant for OFWs to have this, especially if they're already covered by the insurance that they have given by their employers outside of the Philippines?
Froilan, do you want to comment?
Yeah. Siguro I can see yung argument ng mga kababayan natin na it's redundant. We have an insurance, so there's really no need for this health insurance, diba? But I would argue the slightly different way here. So first of all, let's not assume that all Filipinos have insurance here, right? So employers, they don't necessarily give you insurance here. And that's why you can see a lot of cases ng mga OFWs na namatay, they're sick, wala silang insurance. Dubai, yes, it's mandatory, but outside Dubai, no. And that actually creates a lot of problems for a lot of OFWs. And at the same time, if you look at itong policy natin, in the long run, it would be good for a lot of aging migrants, aging OFWs. There's a lot of us who are in their 50s and 60s, pauwi na. So if you return home, yes, you could greatly benefit from this universal healthcare law ng Pilipinas. Now, siguro, yung position ko dyan is, I think we should make it voluntary at the moment for Filipinos. Kasi nga, it's very difficult for them. So, siguro, yung magandang gawin is to realize yung benefit niya sa mga extended family members natin, especially sa mga anak natin, asawa, etc. Yung sa mga aging migrants, pati yung mga Pilipino na walang insurance. It has the potential, and we need to look at yung long term dito, right? Hindi lang yung short term. Kasi nga, not all insurance, they're not mobile. Walang mobility insurance. Kasi there are certain insurances, kaya na nandito ka, you won't be able to use them in the Philippines. So let's say nagbakasyon ka, right? Or you stayed for a longer period of time. Anong insurance mo doon? I mean, some people, I grew up sa America then, where yung iba, pag umuwi ng Pilipinas, they won't be able to use yung mga insurance, mga fil-ams. So, yung policy na to, lalo yung mga dual citizens, it allows them to actually use yung local universal healthcare natin. I think that's a good thing. So, yun yung response ko sa'yo.
From Cheryl Bakay Agding, she says, maganda ang layunin at nilalaman ng batas na ito, pero hindi maayos na naipaliwanag kung ano ang nilalaman. So, bakit nga ba 3%? At ano ang pangkalahatang benepisyo?
I mean, really, yung political packaging, no, ng law, it was yung intent niya, it's so good, right? It's yung sabi nga ni Attorney Barney, it's a social justice legislation, no? May human rights component siya, yung humanitarian grounding, lalo na sa mga poorest of the poor, no? Supporting yung agenda ng presidente natin. But at the same time, the way it was explained, right? It felt like an assault for a lot of Filipinos. Yung mandatory, you have to do this, no excuses. Lalo na yung potential to actually block you, right, from the airport. So anong benefits niya in the long run? Siguro yung benefits niya, it will unfold in the future. For example, a lot of us here are, again, aging, no? Uwi lahat kasi Gulf countries, they don't offer citizenship, lalo na sa Asia. So all Filipinos will go home at some point, right? They will benefit from this. Now, at the moment, yung mga nandito pa, of course they wouldn't, but their families would, right? And remember, kapag nagkasakit ka o yung family mo, yung sahod mo, most of the time, napupunta lang dun sa padala para lang sa hospital, di ba? So, by creating this law, it would actually help yung alleviate yung financial pressure sa'yo. And that could be a good thing in the future. Now, yung problema kasi is the way the government and the way Filipinos are approaching yung future development natin. Our government is trying to create a more inclusive national form of development, kalahatan. Pero yung problema kasi, Filipinos are focused more on their families, exclusive, right? They look at that kasi nasa survival mode, right? They're struggling, yung families, etc. So
mahirap kasing, yeah.
So very much divergence, right? Divergent nila, different approaches. Kaya nagka-clash kasi nga yung issues of corruption, issues of institutional crisis, yung mga issues kagaya ng recent case of Philhealth, for example, right? I mean, you've seen yung mga cases ngayon. So people cumulatively look at these factors, right? And they say, baka hindi mag-work to. And here's why. Yun yung short-term view. But also you need to look at in long-term view. Kasi nga, if you do this, if you help out, you're also helping, right, 100 million, yung mga poorest of the poor sa Pilipinas. Therefore, you're also supporting yung agenda ng presidente to actually help, lalo na yung mga walang pera. Imagine mo, 60% of us sa Pilipinas, they're living less than $2 a day. Think about that, right? What about them? Yung problema kasi, yung degree of bayanihan natin, where did it go, right? I mean, if you think about it, if you send money, you're helping your family. Of course, meron siya mga ripple effect. Sa economy natin, it creates jobs. But what about yung walang mga migrant families, right?
Oh.
So, yung intention nila, it's so good. It's so good. But I think yung political packaging niya, I think it's an issue. So, yeah.
Napakahirap kasi lalo na sa mga panahon ngayon, ano? I mean, you're talking about the poorest of the poor back home. We also have the poorest of the poor back out here. You know, paano naman sila?
There you go.
Di ba, meron din tayong poorest of the poor dito. Siguro tayo, baka hindi natin masyado itong mararamdaman, pero yung mga tao na nahihirapan na, yung mga tao na mga distressed na, paano pa, right? And then let's add to the discussion another thing, corruption sa PhilHealth, right? Mismong gobyerno na natin, si Harry Roque nagsampa ng kaso February, right? So how are we being asked na maglabas ng pera sa isang institusyon na hindi maayos? Hindi ba dapat maglinis na muna sila ng bahay nila? Hindi ba dapat ayusin na muna nila yan bago sila manghingi ng pera?
I think it's been happening for decades and decades now. And I think it's so culturally ingrained natin to delink ourselves. So if you look at yung behavior ng isang Filipino, it's a neoliberal behavior where alam mo yung, you don't want yung government to interact sa'yo, right? You want to do it by yourself without government intervention. So that's why you're migrating in the first place. You're investing sa pagmamigrate mo, you're working so hard para at least makamigrate ka, makapadala ka. That's it. You don't even think about yung on a more, alam mo yung collective, on a more idealistic manner. Kasi nga, you have survival issues and challenges, no? So it's a big challenge for a lot of OFWs in our government. And I think it's a challenge for the next decade. How do you strengthen, right, yung institutional trust and actually prevent itong crisis issues when it comes to trust? I think ito yung part na Filipinos would say, ano ba yung papel ng PhilHealth? Bakit ngayon uneksena sila, right? What did they do for us that, you know, would help us improve yung trust factor para at least makapag-collaborate kami sa PhilHealth? And I think Filipinos are still questioning yon and yung degree of corruption that's happening everywhere, be it sa immigration, be it sa Manila. I think we need to take that into account, and that would hamper yung economic development natin, plus yung moral fiber naman pa natin.
Barney, do you want to add anything to that?
Siguro, mabilis lang. Ano ba ang underlying concept ng isang insurance, no? Sa isang insurance, basically, kung ang isang tao maaaring hindi niya kayang by himself natustusan ang gastusin kung siya ay magkasakit. Kasi hindi naman tayo sabay-sabay magkakasakit, no? So, kung marami ang nagko-contribute, marami ang nagko-contribute, magkakaroon ng maraming pondo. Kung meron man na mga ilangan, matutustusan yung kanyang pangangailangan. Ngayon, kung babawasan natin ang magko-contribute, liliit ang pondo. Pag lumiit ang pondo, paano na yung mga ine-expect na gagamit ng health services. Eh di, nagbayad tayo, kulang. So, yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na hindi dahil meron ka ng coverage sa abroad, covered tayo. Sa Pilipinas, meron din namang mga private HMO, no? Karamihan ng mga empleyado may Philhealth na, meron pa silang yung mga Medicard, yung mga Blue Cross, no? Meron din sila in addition pa to Philhealth. So, pero hindi dapat gawing argumento na covered na ako ng insurance, hindi ako magbibigay sa Philhealth. Again, we go against the very reason of the law na kailangan talagang mag-contribute dahil para sa lahat ito, hindi para lang sa atin. Parang in the same way na hindi naman ako gumagamit ng kalsada. Ba't ako kailangan magbayad ng tax para sa kalsada? We cannot do that, no? So, ang nakikita ko lang dito is we have to show na ano ba ang aking binabayaran. Kasi baka akala, ang binabayaran ko lang para pag ako ay na-ospital. Hindi ito para sa atin lang. Ito ay para sa lahat. Yun ang nangyayari dito. Dinidivide ang cost ng pangangalaga sa bawat isang Pilipino sa ating lahat. And I don't think na kailangan tayong kumontra doon. Sa palagay ko, no, maaaring yung iba, they think wag na. Now, kasi corrupt daw ang nagmamanage, etc. Pero dahil sa corrupt, wag nating ipa-ospital yung Pilipinong naghihingalo. Hindi naman siguro dapat mag-suffer yung mga intended beneficiaries dahil lamang sa may corrupt na opisyal. So, ang solusyon dyan, tanggalin yung corrupt na opisyal, hindi tanggalin ang implementasyon ng batas. Yun yung aking pananaw.
Okay.
I think yung gobyerno natin, I think that's exactly what they've been doing, di ba? Kung may mga complaints yung mga OFWs, for example, yung sa case dito sa Dubai, tinanggal ka agad, right? So I think the government is very much responsive sa mga social media na to. And very quickly lang, Lane, so February pinas yung law last year, implementing guidelines October, and yung April 22, yung sa circular note. So tumaas yung cases ng COVID around March na kasi late na tayo nag-respond, if you remember. And some of our lawmakers even tried to block it out of, political or diplomatic relationships with China and other countries, diba? So I wanted to point out siguro, kung yung COVID hindi nag-intensify sa Philippines, do you think Philhealth would have restructured it a little bit differently? Kasi yung nangyari, April 22 yon, nilabas yung circular note, tapos yung COVID, March pa lang, around like third week of March, pataas na, and all of a sudden, naging desperate ng Philhealth to issue this and passes very much like draconian policies towards Filipinos. Siguro curious lang ako kay, they're linked. Kanina kasi, I think there's an assumption that these are linked. They're actually linked. And I've talked to a lot of officials doon, and I asked these questions. Kasi nga, dumami yung cases, and Philhealth struggled to calculate. Kasi nga, all of a sudden, they didn't project this. I mean, who would have projected yung ganitong klaseng cost, right? All of a sudden, yung mga regular Filipino na may COVID, 2 million, 3 million. I mean, who would pay for that from the perspective of Philhealth? So, meron siyang link. So, I wonder kung di dumating yung link. Remember, the way Philippines is experiencing it, it's the same way dito sa UAE, remember? And a lot of Gulf countries, yung public health nila, yung cost is actually being impacted. So, siguro, hypothetically lang, I'm curious, if COVID didn't strike, do you think the president would have, passed a slightly different type of circular note? I'm curious lang ako kay Atty Barney, what would he say doon? Kasi I think that matters a lot, yung variable na yon, yung COVID effect.
Meron ng naka-allocate na collection ang Philhealth. Nung iyan ay sila ay gumawa ng tables. Makikita nyo ang tables natin hanggang 2022 ba? Or I forgot, but it's several years. So, naka-budget na kung magkano ang kanilang makukolekta, di ba? At kung hindi nagagamitin ang kanilang koleksyon. Ngayon, totoo naman na lumaki ang gastos ng Philhealth few months. But I would want to look into that, but I cannot speculate na dahil ba sa tumaas, gusto nila ngayong ibato sa OFW ang paniningil. Kasi the 3% applies to everyone. It doesn't matter kung ang nagbayad kalahati employer mo, because it's the same collection that they will get. So, sa akin, ang mainam siguro talagang ipakita dito, kung talagang kakapusin ang kanilang budget dahil nagkamali ang kanilang calculation, there was a miscalculation, but not a miscalculation kasi hindi naman na-factor in ang COVID, but I think it could be done in a transparent way na, kulang ang budget dahil sa COVID, we have to increase the collection or maybe we have to do this, etc. Remove, hindi mo na magpatayo ng ospital, etc. So, that is more of the implementation nila na sa akin naman, importante na alam natin, but I think maayos naman yung kanilang papagawa noon.
Let me just move the discussion along. I think granted na naintindihan natin na maganda ang intensyon ng batas na ito. I think siguro karamihan ng OFW papayag naman sa contribution, right? Kung ito ay na-format in a very fair way. Meron tayong isang question dito. The law is there now and to amend it will take a long legislative process. But what about executive orders? If Duterte is serious about making it voluntary, can he issue it through an executive order? And if he is not considering it, then what are the thoughts of our panelists here on what can OFWs do to help amend this law? Pwede ba itong gawing executive order lang na maging voluntary o talagang kailangang baguhin na itong batas na ito? Atty Barney.
Sabi ko nga, Lalene, kahit na existing ang batas, kung hindi naman ipapatupad, it will not really, hindi tayo maapektuhan. I mean directly, kasi hindi nga i-implement yung batas. But syempre, ang Kongreso, yan ay may oversight committee. So, titignan nila, ano ba, na-implement ba ng tama? Or baka kahit na-implement ng tama, hindi naman pala naging maganda hindi naman pala as what we expect ang nangyari. So, papalitan nila. So, kailangan talaga napalitan ng batas. Hindi naman pwedeng gumawa ang Pangulo ng batas na kukontrahe ng existing na batas. Otherwise, magkakaroon tayo ng gulo, Laws will have to be in harmony. So, ang nakikita ko talaga dito is, and I think ito naman yung nangyayari na, na the lawmakers will act on it. Yun ang aking nakikita. Kasi,
we're looking at the resolution here, Atty Barney.
No, not the resolution, but the law itself, yung Universal Healthcare Act. Kasi yung mga implementing rules and regulations, yan ang gumagawa niyan. Yun ang agency na magpapatupad. In this case, it's Philhealth, So yung implementing rules and regulations, Philhealth na ang gumawa niyan.
Meron pa akong isang tanong dito. Yesterday, I saw this update. OFW Family Party List Representative Congressman Bobby Dapiran Pacquiao filed a House resolution with the House of Representatives seeking for the immediate review and suspension of this rule. Will that make any impact to this law?
Well, yan nga yung sinasabi natin na gagawa sila ng mga panukala para amyendahan ng batas. So, yan yung proseso na sinasabi ko kanina.
Anong pwedeng gawin ng mga OFWs to participate in this? Can they lend their voices out there? Will it make a difference? Anong advice ninyo?
Well, of course, Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so
Froilan, go ahead.
Siguro, how do you increase yung political engagement ng mga OFWs at yung mga Pilipino in other parts of the world? Siguro una is yung heighten talaga yung political awareness natin talaga and engagement. I just wish na yung attention natin that we give sa Miss Universe o yung mga Manny Pacquiao fights, I just hope we would put more proactive approach pagdating sa mga legal reforms kasi it directly hit us, pati yung mga family natin. That degree of attention, lalo na yung mga movies na pinapanood natin, I think we should also invest some time talaga in terms of understanding these kasi nga, pahirap yung buhay, I think that's very important. One. Number two, I suggest that people would look into yung mga fiscal policy ng bansa, taxation, yung domestic politics. Kasi nga, yun yung part of the reason bakit ganito yung mga batas natin. Ano ba yung mga constraints ni Duterte? Bakit pinili niyang protektahan to at issues dito? Kailangan maintindihan natin yung trade-off. Ano ba yung binabalansin niya? At bakit ito yung pinili niya versus dito? Sino yung protektahan niya? Kasi if you know these variables, you can easily develop yung strategy mo, right? To critique yung government or even share yung mga feedback mo sa kanila. Kasi if you want to challenge yung isang government, you have to think like one, right? And you have to design your approaches based sa mga fiscal policy nila na ginagawa. For example, yung mga pogo ngayon, di ba sa Pilipinas, hindi nagbabayad ng taxes, right? So sa mga OFW communities outside, rights groups, what can we do about that, right? They exist without paying taxes. So yung mga Filipino, what they're saying is that that's very unfair. So maybe things like that, I think we need to really look into ways on how to frame yun. Tapos yung number 3, we do need senators who are actually OFWs kasi it's an issue of representation. It's always been about politicians, senators, congressmen, pumupunta sa Middle East with all their tours. And they need to represent tayo, but I don't think they have a good contextual understanding. Sige nga, sino sa kanila yung nag-bed stays na sa Dubai, right? Sino yung 50-year-old sa kanila na tumira, right, with 10 other people sa isang room? You tell me, right? Who actually represents Filipino, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very important, yung OFW. And the last thing actually is, maybe yung case na to na nakikita natin, maybe this could really reaffirm yung idea na OFW department, right? Kasi at the moment, there are different agencies na nagmamanage ng different OFW matters, kagaya ng DFA, DOLE, DOH, etc. This could actually make a stronger case, right, for a more centralized, more representative, right, OFW rights, right, sa mga institutions natin. Kasi ngayon wala pa right? So I think we need, siguro yung point ko lang is, at the end of the day, even if mamatay na tayo, we will still be dealing with the government, no? So it's a love-hate relationship. And I think we need to be very, very progressive as Filipinos, no? I know we criticize yung government, yung mga implementing agents niya, but I think we should really focus sa mga framers of the law, right? They created yung mga law na to. And siguro yun lang yung mga point ko. Be more progressive and really assert ourselves more. So yun lang. Yeah.
Just recapping on that, right? Again, emphasizing ko ano yung sinasabi dito ng ni Froilan is we need engagement, we need awareness. Kailangan nating makialam sa nangyayari sa bansa and we need representation. I'm interested to know, ano ang pwedeng gawin ngayon ng isang OFW who is concerned and who wants this law to be amended? Kailangan ba nilang sumulat sa mga congressman? Kailangan ba nilang mag-sign ng petition? Meron pa ba silang magagawa beyond signing a petition? Attorney Barney, I want to direct that question to you.
Okay. So, well, kung titignan natin ang nangyari, maraming nagawa ng mga petitions at ito yung sinasabi natin na the voice of the people is the voice of God, na ito pala ang sentimiento ng mga tao, ng mga OFWs in particular, so narinig tayo, no? So, ang nakikita ko kasi, kailangan magkaisa tayo in such a way na naiintindihan natin kung ano ang nangyayari para sa atin. It's not about yung ating presidente, it's not about Philhealth, it's not about yung mga gumagawa ng batas natin. Ngayon, it's about yung ating karapatan, no? Ang lagi kong naiisip, na talagang I am really bothered is paano gumawa ng batas na siningle out ang OFW. I mean, para ikaw lang ang hindi makalabas ng bansa pag hindi ka bayad. Ano kaya ang rasyonal nila? Anong pumasok sa kanilang sa kanilang deliberation na ganon ang gawing treatment sa isang OFW? 'Di ba? Bakit hindi nila sinubukang gawin na ang mga abogadong hindi bayad ng PhilHealth hindi makakapunta ng korte, hindi makakalabas ng bansa? Did they even attempt to do that sa mga abogado? O gawin natin sa lahat ng mga doktor, lahat ng mga profesional, hindi kayo makakapag-renew ng inyong PRC license pag hindi kayo bayad sa PhilHealth, no? Bakit hindi nila naisip yun gawin? Bakit sa OFW lang i-restrict ang paghahanap buhay, ang paglabas ng bansa? So, naisip ko, kung lagi mong hinahayaan na ikaw ay tatapakan, ang magiging treatment na lagi sa'yo, okay na yan, sila na. Diba? Kung meron kailangang isakripisyo, edi sila na. Sanay na sila diyang isakripisyo eh. Diba? So, hindi tayo dapat pumayag na ang trato sa atin mas mababa sa pagtrato sa iba. That's why I think hindi ito really issue ng Philhealth kasi ang Philhealth hindi lang naman yan para sa OFW eh. Nagkataon lang na ang Philhealth maybe ang naging eye-opener sa atin. Pero it's not really about sa Philhealth lang. Tignan natin ano ba, naisip ko nga sabi ko may ginagawa akong isang article. Yung mga OFW realizations during COVID, ano ba ang napatunayan nating mga OFW ngayong COVID? No? And this will apply dun sa mga agencies related talaga sa ating mga OFW, POEA, OWA, no? Kung walang OFW, ano ang relevance ng DOLE, ng POEA? Ano ang relevance ng OWA? Wala. Without the OFWs, wala silang saysay because they exist for the OFWs.
The service, the service.
No. Hold on, Ali. No,
are outside of the Philippines, correct?
So ano yung pwedeng gawin ng isang simpleng mamamayang OFW? Ano yung pwedeng gawin? Yes. When we finish this live stream, what are we supposed to be doing? Anong gagawin natin ngayon?
Final takes, guys.
Huwag magpaapi. Dapat yon. Huwag magpaapi. Basic lang is make sure na yung iyong karapatan ay naibibigay sa'yo. Karapatan mo na lumabas ng bansa. Hindi dapat may OEC. Passport, ticket, o kung ang pupuntahan ng bansa ay may visa, dapat yun lang. Passport, ticket, visa. Dapat makaalis ka na. Dahil
sa dapat na
the longest time. Hinayaan natin the longest time na sige, kuha ng OEC, sige, magdala ng plastic envelope sa immigration, sa airport. Kaya ganyan. Ang tingin na ngayon, Philhealth, pwede natin gawin yan sa OFW. Nagawa nga sa kanila na mag-OEC, nagawa nga sa kanilang papilahin kung saan-saan. Ito pa, yun yung aking
saan dapat umapila para magkaroon ng pagbabago sa mga rules na ito?
Ay, ang dapat nating, unang-una, gusto kong umapila sa mga kapwa ko OFW. It will start with us. No? Ngayon, kung tayo ay magiging united, we will stand as one. Congress will hear us kasi they are representing us. The executive department will also hear us. Bakit? Hindi sila mag-execute, ay i-execute nila ng tama ang mga dapat na batas na ipairal. No? So, even your employers will respect you because alam nila na hindi ka pwedeng kaya-kayanin. So, I think that everything starts from the OFW. Pag ang tingin mo ay pwede kang kaya-kayanin, wala tayong patutunguhan.
Froilan, you wanted to say something?
Right. No, I do agree na you need to mobilize talaga yung mga populations natin. And I do suggest and I want to see yung initiative ni Barney to write sa mga legislators natin to actually reform it kasi nga he is very knowledgeable about yung mga situations, mga OFWs dito. And I think he could create massive impact for a lot of Filipinos in the Middle East. I'm really looking forward on. But at the same time, I think it's also very important to look at yung domestic constraints, right, ng gobyerno natin. We need to look at that a little bit more closely kasi nga, what you're seeing here is basically an output, right, ng domestic political decision-making na nangyari sa Pilipinas. I think we should not discount that. And we should really channel yung mga criticisms natin dito, mga framers of the law. I mean, I understand, yes, POEA, DOLE, POEA, for example, even yung mga diplomatic missions, these are implementing agencies. I think we should really channel talaga yung mga criticisms and feedback natin sa central government talaga. It really goes back there, no? And yung related naman sa healthcare, in the short run talaga, it looks very, very painful right? Especially ngayon kung hindi ka makakain, no pay, no work, wala kang sahod, it's really painful. But remember, tatanda lahat tayo, right? At some point, all of us. And tayong lima dito, for example, right? We have good jobs. We don't even think about these things. So positionality matters then. You have to look at yung position natin. Not all of us, hindi naman lahat tayo, we live, alam mo yon, like, kagaya nung like 60% ng mga OFWs, for example, dito, yung aging process, right? They live in a very precarious life, precarious world, even sa Pilipinas. They will go home, right? And yung challenge nga lang, as Barney pointed out, saan mo kukunin yung funding kapag nag-no kang yung OFW? Where do you get funds to supplement pa yun, right? Kasi yung expectation ngayon is all of us are included, di ba? We have to pay. This is the part where how do you pressure yung government? Saan ba yan? Yun yung fiscal policy. So, yun yung taxation na pumapasok. So, I think we really need to look into that a little bit more and educate mga kababayan natin. Kasi nga, yung universal healthcare, it's such an exceptional achievement sa government natin. And again, they're facing an exceptional challenge ngayon where we all, and even yung mga Filipinos are also facing exceptional challenges. So, I think we really need to take into account yung timeline na yun, pati yung context that Filipinos and our government is currently facing.
Yeah, we have to wrap up now. So just a quick wrap up. We said na maganda yung intention ng batas. We understand that we will have to contribute para sa kapakanan ng lahat. The laws need to be amended. We have to engage with our government and be aware. At kamukha nga nung sabi ni Barney, wag magpaapi. We have to take interest in legislation, kamukha ng sinasabi ni Froilan, no? Just one last quick thing, guys. Just a quick answer. How can people reach out to their legislators to effect some change on this one? Just a quick answer from any of you.
Well, unang-una, meron tayong representative sa Congress, no? Merong nagre-represent sa interes ng mga OFW, no? So, kailangan tayong mag-lobby sa kanila, no? Kailangan nating tignan, every time na merong deliberation ng batas, pinaglalaban mo ba yung aming interes? Di ba? Anong ginawa mo para sa aming interes? Doon din sa ating mga pamilya sa Pilipinas, nag-e-elect kayo ng inyong representative, no, sa inyong lalawigan, di make sure na yung inyong representative may puso para sa OFW o may magandang plataforma. So, yun lang ang ating magagawa by voting. Yun lang ating may ginawa. Ngayon, hindi naman election, ating nagagawa nilang trabaho nila. Let's make them accountable.
Make them accountable. Final words, just a quick one, Froilan.
It's the same thing sa voting, no? And yung awareness natin sa mga legislations. Again, most Filipinos don't even register, for example, sa OWA, sa mga elections. Alam mo yun, if claiming rights is linked to membership, dapat progressive din tayo. And remember, we have to work with government. We have to collaborate, right, for a long time until we die. So it's very essential sa atin that we constructively criticize yung government and really understand not just yung policies nila, but the kind of constraints that they operate in. Kasi sa case of Duterte ngayon, na-checkmate na siya, if you notice, even yung foreign policy niya. So it's very, very difficult for a president like him to operate at the moment. So the question talaga is, how can we influence yung gobyerno natin to reprioritize, right? Perhaps we could take some funding within our own government funding, raise yung taxes dito, yung mga hindi nagbabayad ng taxes, raise that. I think yung cross-border virtual campaigns natin should really identify mga hotspot na issues na to. I suppose yung nagra-rant ka lang. So kailangan, data is important, right? Logic, and critical thinking, these are very essential to creating a well-functioning society and democracy sa kagaya ng Pilipinas.
In a nutshell, makialam. Make it your business. Thank you very much, Barney and Froilan, for this very enlightening discussion. I know marami pang mga katanungan, pero hopefully, you can help us answer yung mga questions ng ating mga viewers sa comment section. So thank you very much, Barney and Froilan. Alwi, do you have any last few words before we end this?
Well, for me, I think if we're thinking of the Filipino welfare in general, there's something that's beautiful that came out of this. Not just the Philhealth issue, but also with other issues that came before this. Is that Filipinos are now more participative. You know, like they challenge these things. Even if we have like different views, we support different views. Like it's an exercise for us to think. So, and good point for both Atty Barney and Froilan that like it starts with you. It starts with who you support, who you believe in, and who you put in power. And yeah, I hope that we exercise our right to vote, and you know, like because we have our voices and now we are being heard. So I think that's the beautiful thing that came out of this.
Yes, thank you very much. So guys, hindi pa tapos ang issue na ito. Tuloy-tuloy po tayo, and please take the best messages from this talk. Participate. Make it your business. Just because we're sitting out here, it doesn't mean na hindi tayo maapektuhan sa nangyayari. It is our business. So we have to participate. So thank you once again for joining us, and hope to see you soon in another episode of Ilustrado Talks. Goodbye.